Fireworks are on device.
But we're going to receive our tithes and offerings here this morning, and I just want to share from you a story that's probably well known from the book of Luke. It's Luke 21, verse 1 through 4. Jesus, as he looked up, Jesus saw the rich putting their gifts into the temple treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 very small copper coins. I tell you the truth, he said, this poor widow has put in more than all the others. All these people gave gifts out of their wealth, but she, out of the poverty, put in all that she had to live on. This widow gives out of her poverty. And so I just want you to picture for a moment, you enter this scene, and the rich are lining up, and they're giving their gifts, they're giving their offerings at the temple. And then you have this woman, a widow, who is giving out of her poverty what she has. 2 mites, which is the equivalent to about 1% of a day's wage. But it was all she had. She doesn't have much, but she chooses to give sacrificially. And so she's challenging this mindset as she gives. There's this mindset that people have, that we have, that I have sometimes, that says, I'll give when I have more. And the widow is challenging that mindset that day because she virtually had nothing, and she gave out of that poverty when she had nothing. But I also want to take this a step further outside of just giving when it might hurt to give. So let's take it a step further, because this widow is living in a day and age where the temple is corrupt, She's living in a time where the temple leaders are corrupt, and still she has this attitude and says, I will be faithful to God in my giving. Even in the face of corruption, I'll be faithful. And if we consider the fact that just 1 chapter later in the book of Luke, that Judas receives money from the temple leaders to betray Jesus. And the real possibility that some of the widow's money might have been a part of what was given to Judas to pay for the betrayal of Jesus. It shows a lot of corruption from the day. But that wasn't the concern of the widow's mind or heart. Her concern was faithfulness to God, right? That was her concern. And here's the reality. The widow in that day, she has every excuse not to be faithful. She is poor. The temple is corrupt. Why would I give to that? Likewise, I think we have every reason in the book not to be generous, don't we? I'm sure we can even think through all the things that are coming up. We just came off of a busy Christmas season where we were generous, and I had my season of generosity. Or I'm struggling with bills and finances. We live in a day and age too where constantly we see organizations being held accountable, right? And we hold them accountable. I'm not saying we shouldn't verify or make sure people are using finances correctly when we give. But we focus on our needs, and we have these mindsets sometimes that say, I'll give when I have more. And there's a lesson here with the widow where we say, God, I'll just be faithful. God, I'm going to be faithful. In the face of a corrupt society, God, I'm going to be faithful. In the face of my poverty, God, I'm going to continue to be faithful. And what God is calling us to is a posture of our hearts. Sure, there might be times where we have to, that's why we have business meetings, right? We want to make sure we're using funds correctly. And I believe that we have a staff and a board here who are high integrity individuals, and we use the church finances appropriately. And so this is not a call against the church, but this is a call of the posture of our hearts. Am I looking for a reason to be generous and to be faithful? Or am I looking for a reason to not be generous? Am I looking for a reason not to be faithful in my tithes and offerings? So I want to encourage you this morning, church. As we give of our tithes and offerings this morning, what's the posture of our hearts? What do our hearts say this morning? And so would you stand with me as we give this morning and we posture our hearts towards God?